Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the 60s Project, where myself and Russell Howell are reviewing a lot of movies from the 1960s. And Russell, you are on pins and needles with the NFL draft, but thank you so much for peeling away to join me.
Yeah, no worries. My team's not picking for a while, so we're good. Yeah, looking forward to tackling these three films. We are on a lot of different ends of the spectrum, these three films, so this will be fun. This will be a fun discussion to talk about these films.
One, I think, and you can kind of give it which one I'm talking about. One that I love. One I'm not sure what to think on, and one that I thought was okay, but the more I've turned it over in my head, I just didn't like. So,
and that's to say, I think our list is probably the same. The one that you're thinking of, like it had potential, and then I think back on, I'm like, God, man, this is really it just really stunk.
I thought it was going one way, and then it went somewhere completely different, and it wasn't great. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please do leave a like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, give us 5 stars. We would greatly appreciate it, and a follow as well while you're there. But let's get going and talking about these three this time around, starting off with, well, the one that I'm giving away in my lower third here. It is Peeping Tom. Peeping Tom was directed by Michael Powell, who had previously directed movies like The Red Shoes and was one of the directors on The Thief of Baghdad. And it starred Karl-Heinz Bohm, probably butchered that, it's a very German name, as well as Anna Massey and Moira Shearer. And it tells the story of a man named Mark Lewis, played by Holm, who is a photographer during the day, both legitimately and illegitimately. However, he has a side hobby of killing women with his camera and capturing their reactions for him to watch back later. So, just to give a peek behind the curtain, I've looked ahead on the list of what we're going to be covering in the year 1960, Russell, and this is a secretly great year for horror, in my opinion. We've already covered Psycho. We're covering this, which I think is great. Then we're covering House of Usher, which is the kickoff of Roger Corman's cycle of Edgar Allan Poe-based films. Black Sabbath, which is a Mario Bava film. We got a lot of great horror coming up. And Peeping Tom, this is just me, but I think is a movie that has aged tremendously well in a lot of aspects. It's still creepy, even though it's not really that bloody. And I think it deserves a remake. I think Neon or A24 needs to get their hands on this and do a modern adaptation. Because considering this is like attached to our hips at this point, you could do so much with this premise through like 2025 or 6 eyes.
I had shades of almost like Nightcrawler-esque to it. I had vibes of that, and then I had vibes of like probably like Obsession and like I had almost like Shame vibes on this one too, where like somebody is just is struggling internally with obsessive, with behavior and with the act of, in his case, killing, photographing for, basically for thrills. So I feel like it was almost like I said, Shame mixed with Nightcrawler. And I think honestly, Jake Gyllenhaal would be a perfect fix for this, though it does give off that Nightcrawler vibe a lot for me. But I thought this movie was serviceable. I definitely thought it was good. Definitely aged a little bit, but for real, honestly, though, not showing it, I think is just as poignant, just because of the fact that, like, look at what Jaws does 15 years later. You know what I mean? You don't see the shark a whole lot, but you know that it's there. It's set up through music. It's set up through just like the cat and mouse game that Spielberg sets up that whole entire time. I feel like this was one of those types of films. You never knew when he was going to strike, but you knew the potential was always there because he always had that camera on him. So I did like that.
And I think I should be clear in saying this is not really a slasher movie. This is more of a psychological horror because Mark Lewis is someone who is deeply disturbed. However, the movie goes to great lengths to kind of show that he's had a lot of bad things happen to him. It doesn't clear, like it doesn't clear or it legitimize anything that he does, but
Yeah.
there it could have so easily been a situation where it could have been like, say, like Leatherface swinging a chainsaw around, like clearly, like this is the monster right here. Mark
Yeah.
Lewis is deeply disturbed, but he was not born that way. He was made that way, and
Yeah.
that's. I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but let's just say there's a lot of trauma involved with that character.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, I think you like if when you watch, you get the kind of the vibe of what happened to the character. I think in order to drive him this way, but I mean, I think he does a good enough job to where it's like you almost get that. You're almost kind of rooting for him to change his ways. There's times in the movie where you're really just like, is he coming across like he takes an interest in this girl that lives right underneath him. She just turned 21. He takes a liking into her, and you think, and it's almost like Taxi Driver vibes when they're watching this film. You're like, oh man, here we go. You're gonna blow this. You're gonna blow this one. But she actually kind of she kind of is very sympathetic toward him, and I think that's just the type of like compassion this character really has, like her character in the film, which is crazy because like I think other people would have been completely freaked out and then just completely shut this out. You know what I mean? But there are times where you find you kind of do root for the main character to try to like change ways.
Yeah, and like I said, Mark Lewis is disturbed, but not in a way where there's a small little kernel of maybe he can be fixed. He can't, but there's like a small little sliver of in another life he would be way different. And
Yeah,
I think there is, like I said, and to your point, there are some areas of this movie that haven't aged the best. I will give you that. However, like I said, with the camera aspect, he gets a sick pleasure of seeing the reactions of the women that he kills, and that to me is the scariest part of all. Like not the act of doing it, but actually seeing it later. That's what affects me more.
Oh, 100%. And then you always get that, they always say that, like the killers always revisit the murder scene and stuff like that. So you saw him after, like right at the beginning of the film. So it's not really giving anything away, but you see him outside filming them taking the body out of the apartment. It's haunting. It's really chilling because there are people that do that. But I think this has an original idea, though. You know what I mean? I think at the time where it really at that time where it really hadn't been filmed. You know what I mean? I appreciate that, and I think that is the chilling part of the film is just the fact that the camera's always latched to his side, so you never know when he is going to strike.
I think for me, the one part that doesn't really work is the ending, which I will not give away, but I feel like the ending was it took a turn, and I'm not sure that I was a fan. And again, I won't spoil it here, but let's just say the ending involves around knowing how Mark catches the reactions of the women. That's all you need to know. And I think in 1960 it was pretty effective, but in 2025 I'm just like,
They definitely could have made it a little bit tighter to make it a little bit more, haunting or chilling. You know what I mean? And I feel like it was kind of like it wasn't as suspenseful as it could have been. You know what I mean? I feel like we built it all the way up, and then I think we just kind of like let it drop, and it's just kind of like at the end of it, you're just like okay.
Outside of that, though, I still think this is a very effective movie. I'm going to give it a great rating on my scale. Not full on amazing. This is not like Psycho good, but Psycho is like top tier. You can never beat that no matter how hard you try. And they have tried. Like this is still, there's some rough around the edges parts, which is why I say this needs to be remade. Like Neon, A24, like Shudder, like get on it. Like I would be there day one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely can make this film a lot tighter. I agree. I haven't obviously. I just watched it today before the recording, so I didn't really do anything on Letterboxd. So I'd probably toss it between like a 3.5. Nothing crazy. Nothing like you said. Not the greatest, but I mean, it's serviceable enough.
Well, let us move on now to I think the one that we might differ on slightly, but we'll see, it is the Fugitive kind.
It was there. No, it wasn't no better. It was no better the day before yesterday. You put it there.
This was directed by Sidney Lumet. Chances are, if you hear that name, you know exactly who I mean. You've seen a Sidney Lumet movie in your lifetime. He directed one of my all-time favorites, 12 Angry Men. He directed Network. He did a lot of work with Al Pacino, like Serpico. Did the original movie version of Murder on the Orient Express. So Lumet would have a long and lengthy career, and he's just getting his start here. But in the 70s, that's when he takes off.
Yeah.
But this is based on a play written by Tennessee Williams, and it tells the story of a drifter named Val Xavier, played by Marlon Brando, who arrives in a small town, gets a job at this local store, and falls in love with a woman and basically gets involved with the business of many of the people in the town. So this is not the first time Marlon Brando has done anything with Tennessee Williams. He did the legendary adaptation of Streetcar Named Desire. That's easy for me to say, which I've actually covered on the channel for the AFI project. And the movie's technically very good, but I just got nothing out of this one, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Brando's the best part of this one. We were talking off air about it. Brando really could lift anything. You just saw how cool and just like how sexy he was on the screen, how he's just very flawless and effortless of how he delivers lines. You just see what a great actor he really was. Yeah, to me, I kind of echo that. They say it's like it's funny because it's almost like they say he wanders into a Mississippi town and inflames two troubled women. I would beg to differ. It's more of just that the husband's wife, the owner of the shop or whatever, I think is the one where his relationship obviously is a lot more. The other one is more of just like she recognizes him because he played in Louisiana, in New Orleans, Louisiana. He used to play guitar at like dive bars or whatever, and he is trying to shake the old ways and try to turn over a new leaf. He's just turning 30 now, so he kind of wants to leave that young, obnoxious lifestyle behind him and kind of turn a new leaf over, get employed, and really just try to find himself. And I think Brandon does a great job in this film. This is obviously not one of Sidney Lumet's better films. This is probably lower tier on the list of Lumet's films, but when you've done things like 12 Angry Men, it's kind of hard to beat that, so. And he also didn't he do the Before the Devil Knows You're Dead too, didn't he? Wasn't
Yes,
that one?
he did.
That was his last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say that was his last one.
Which is a fantastic film, by the way. It's a really good film.
Yeah, like I said, Sidney Lumet in the 70s is
Network. Yeah.
Just another animal, like I said. A Network,
100%.
like, and you will atone! Like, that is just great. And Peter Finch's whole monologue, that is just incredible stuff. And I hate to damn this movie with faint praise, but I feel like this movie's fine and all. My biggest thing is that I was struggling to keep up with what all was going on. Like, Val is with this one woman, and then he falls in love with another woman, and then this man named Jeb comes down and is like, you can't speak to her. I'm just like, I think I made the mistake of watching this while editing, so I should have concentrated more. But at the same time, I'm like,
well, the 2-hour runtime makes you do that too, though, for sure. It's definitely, it's got a lot of leg on it. I think we could really trim probably like a good 15, 20 minutes out of it. There are times, kind of like you said, you're like, wait a minute. Like, the big thing I take away is the fact that she's unhappily married. Her husband's sick. She pretty much hires him because he's easy on the eyes and he talks to her. But then there's like a love interest that you really don't buy. To me, I don't buy it because we really haven't been invested in. There's not a lot of one-on-one time to set that up. The love, the whole entire love aspect of things, the love chemistry, I think is just kind of, you know what I mean? I don't really buy it that much. And then the other girl, the blonde, that just like drives in. And like recognizes him and stuff like that. You don't really buy that. the lady at the beginning of the film that brings him into the house. Like there's just a lot going on. Basically what it is it's like everybody just stops at his good looks, and he can pretty much get whoever he wants, whenever he wants. And that's basically the vibe I got from it. He doesn't really respond to it though. There's chances, when he's getting hit on at the store and he kind of just like throws that away. They angrily leave the store. He's trying to turn over a new leaf. But like I said, and like you agreed, I just don't buy the love interest with the wife of the owner of the shop.
I was going to say we were going to differ, but it seems like we're on the same page. So like I'm just and I don't want to sound like I hate this movie. I actually think there's some parts of it where I'm like, okay, that's good and all, but I look at this movie and I see Sidney Lumet directed. He would go on to do better. Yeah. Marlon Brando would have an interesting 1960s, and we haven't looked too deep into it, but just based on the eyeball test, like the next year he directs himself in a Western called One-Eyed Jack in 1961, which when we get to 61, we're going to probably cover that. Yeah. So Brando would go on to do bigger things, and Lumet, of course, would go on to do more things after this. Yeah. For me personally, though, this movie's pretty forgettable. It's not terrible. It's not unwatchable. There's good moments here, but everyone involved would go on to do better things, or at least the prominent folks.
Yeah, and I would put this middle of the road. This is like a 2.5 film. If you're watching it, watch it for Brando's performance. He just really showcases why he was such a Hollywood icon. Just by effortlessly acting and can run circles around anybody. I just think that he effortlessly draws you into the film, and I think his character and his acting obviously is obviously attributed to that. But yeah, this is a forgettable film. Like I said, it does really showcase what you're going to be getting with Brando down the road.
Well, to close things out this time around, we're going to be taking a look at, I don't know if this is the worst of the 60s we've done so far, but it might be in the conversation. I thought it was okay at first, but then
that's what I was talking about. We started off with hopes.
Turning it over in my head, I'm like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were like me. Yep.
This was directed by Leslie Stevenson, one of one of his most known films. He didn't direct much, and this is one of his bigger ones. And it tells the story of two guys named Boots and Duke, played by Warren Oates and Corey Allen. They are drifters, and they go into this town and find a housewife who is incredibly lonely. And so they hatch a plan of sorts to get one of them laid. Yeah. That is literally it. This movie's 79 minutes long. It felt twice that.
Yeah, it felt like a bad made-for-TV episode. I messaged you about that because it's like it has that body of like an hour and 20 minute, like a pilot or something like that. The whole entire plot, like you said, it's they see this attractive lady pull up the gas station and they get into a cab and they want the cab to follow her. So then they obviously tail her and know where she lives and then try. So Duke is the guy, the one that does the majority of the acting in this film. Boots is a side character in this film. Duke is the one that tries to woo her, but it's almost like Duke has feelings for her too, though. And that's the other thing I was kind of confused about. There wasn't enough time to really go into depth about this. We know that this Anne character, this housewife, is not in a happy marriage. Yeah, she may have the materialistic things, i.e. like the nice house, the outside pool, the outlooks LA, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You have all the, the nice car, this and that, great. But you don't really see that the husband is spending time with her or really showing her affection. Like when she tries to make love to her husband, he kind of shoots it down. You can tell this Anne is just really not satisfied in her marriage, though it tries to tell you a different story later on to sweep it up at the end. But I don't know. it's one of those things where you think that Anne kind of wants Duke there, and then like Boots is just like kind of jealous because he's like, what the hell? I thought you were going to hook me up with her, and like this whole premise is just stupid.
And it gets to become a mess too. Like if you're like not following it closely.
Yeah.
I thought when this movie started, it was going to turn into something like Funny Games. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Funny Games, Russell, but
I know what you're talking about. I thought it was going to be a little bit more sinister because they described this film as like a thriller, like a real, you know what I mean, like a psychological thriller. And I thought we were going to go like twisted on this, and we didn't do anything remotely. Yeah.
Yeah, but unlike Funny Games, where that movie is like these two random people find a family and they just completely just ruin and torture them.
Yeah.
Here, it's like these two drifters find this woman and like, she looks kind of cute. Let's try and hook up with her. And that's the movie. And it's not even, it's not even interesting. Like, it's just these two, like, hatching this scheme of trying to find this, like, trying to like fall in love with this woman, and like her husband is like barely there and is like barely interested in their marriage. I'm just like, guys, what are we even doing here? There's barely even a plot to this.
Yeah, like there's times where you're like, are they going to kill this lady? Like there's times
what I was thinking they were going to build towards, but no.
Yeah. And it was just like, dude, like, I don't know. Like I almost wish it was kind of set up more like The Strangers. Like, you know, you have this lady by herself, like when she's by herself, because the husband's going away to San Francisco for a business trip or whatever. He's gone. That's your time to really make it really uncomfortable and make it really scary and sinister. But I feel like we missed the marks on that. Not saying it had to go that way, but if you're advertising this movie as like a psychological thriller or a psychological horror film, I didn't get any of the vibes in this at all. You could watch it for free on Amazon Prime, and I think they even like they said it was like a hold on because of the it's called Private Property, a psychosexual thrill ride. You know, that's what it says on it. You don't get any of that in this film at all. Nothing, none of it.
I know, and it's none of those things. It's just, here's another movie that is about a lonely woman in a house by herself that gets stalked by a mysterious stranger. Have you ever heard of Hush, the Mike Flanagan film?
Yeah.
Which was on Netflix but isn't anymore, and now it's like memory hold somewhere, like, which is just sad, but there you go. That movie's awesome. But here, it's like, I don't know what I was expecting with this, but everything seemed to indicate that this was going to be some kind of woman defends herself against the stalkers movie, and it's not even that. It's like a half-baked kind of romance-looking thing. I don't know. This movie's horrid. It's like, it's not like the worst, but it just, of the stuff we've covered for this project, this is easily the one that I just liked the least.
Yeah, there was still some bad ones. I mean, I would put it it's lower. And another movie that did a really great, Scream. You could even put Scream in there.
That's a good point too. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Realistically, it's the same type of premise. I mean, you two people stalking one girl, like pretty much the whole entire premise of the movie. I don't know. It could have been done a lot better. I mean, granted, this was 1960, so none of this stuff happened. So we can't even take see Hush or see Scream for another 30 plus years. So like, I guess maybe in 1960, this was like kind of as creepy as it could get, but you just made Psycho that same year. You just did Psycho. So to me, it's like, the bar was already set up. I feel like we just really was underutilized. I feel like this was just a waste. The 75 minutes, it drags, and it's definitely a forgettable film.
Well, I pass it off to all of you guys. What did you think of these movies? Let us know in the comments. We would love to read what you have to say. And Russell, thank you for suffering through a couple of these with me. I do appreciate it, but tell the people where they can find you.
Notorious by Chance is the Facebook group. We are not putting polls up for a while. It's going to be, we have one more episode of Nora, and then we'll be putting polls up. We just released our episode on The Last Airbender. hear Chance and I talk about that film, my first viewing, and Chance really going to town because he is he watched the animated series, the '05 animated series, so he's very passionate about it. I get it. I didn't have a horse in the race watching this movie because I never saw it, so to me, it's like I really didn't care. But it's nice for him to point things out of like where the movie did a disservice to the show. But our next episode will be on Nora. We'll be talking about that. Looking forward to that. And then we have a poll coming up after that. It is the poll title is going to be like, I believe, sleeper hits, films that weren't supposed to be big hits that ended up turning out to be big hits. So like your Big Fat Greek Wedding and films like that. So we have a poll of 5 up there. I'll leave that hush hush for now, but I think my Big Fat Greek Wedding is on there. I think I put it on, nominated that on there. But there's 4 other films that nobody else knows except us that we'll put on there. But yeah, then you guys can find us at NBC Podcast at TikTok and on X, all that fun stuff.
Yep, all the links will be in the description. Go give them a follow or a subscribe there. That would be greatly appreciated. As far as this channel goes, next week Russell will be back. We'll be diving back into the year 2000. Be taking a look at 3 more selections, starting off with the straight to video, sequel to a Goofy movie called An Extremely Goofy Movie. Then we'll take a hard left from one Disney movie to another Disney movie, technically speaking. It's Brian De Palma's Mission to Mars. And then we'll be wrapping things up with the Johnny Depp satanic film, The Ninth Gate. So stay tuned for all of that next week. But for Russell, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.